So here I am in my bed at 6:04 in the morning looking up to heaven, and I just hear God tell me that it's time. I looked out the window as far as I could see. There's blue lights, FBI, DEA, IRS, Jack's Beach, Jacksonville Narcotics, SWAT team, dogs, big military shields, guns drawn. And I opened the door and was directed to get down on my knees. I would have thought that would have been a moment where fear would have just overcome me. But it was almost like that was God's deliverance plan. And it was like he brought this situation so that I could feel the freedom. And it was like fear, it wasn't even there. All I could think was, it's finally over. It's finally over. They took me in my underwear and made me sit in the back seat of a police car handcuffed until probably almost 9:30 in the morning with neighbors walking past me while they tore my house apart. But at the end of the day, they had to take me downtown. And I remember right as I was getting walked out towards the front door, I remember my dad, who I probably didn't have the best relationship with, and he grabbed me and he hugged me. And he said, "Son, I love you. What do I need to do for you?" I think for the first time, I got a view of Jesus through my father that day. There was no rebuke. There was no judgment. There was nothing but, "Let me help you." And that didn't mean that the consequences of the things that I had done were going anywhere quickly. That didn't mean that I was going to be rescued from everything that I had done. But it did mean that I had somebody that loved me, that was beside me, that was gonna walk with me. It's kind of hard to understand the magnitude of what I was getting ready to face until I was sitting down at the table at the federal prosecutor's office, and she slides over my indictment, and it says, "The United States of America versus Martin Milo Manley Jr." I was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. At that moment, I was just grateful that my vision was clear, that I didn't want to fight this. I just wanted to accept responsibility for it, and I wanted to get it in my rearview mirror as quickly as I could. When I got there, I was reminded once again of who I was by number. I was reminded of what the rules were, that we were going to have daily counts 3 times a day, where I had to be at a certain place at a certain time, and if I wasn't there, that I could be moved up a couple security levels. I could, put in confinement. I could, lose visitation. You very quickly realize that all of your freedom and all of your liberty has been taken from you. When I really, really, really realized, I had completely been pulled from the free world, was the first time that my daughter Peyton got to come visit me. When that visit was over, it would literally take guards pulling her off my chest, her screaming and kicking and yelling. And then the minute I walked outside, over that tall wall, beyond that fence, I could hear my baby girl screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, I want my daddy." And there was nothing I could do about it. But even then, God continued to send people to me. He, very early on, gave me a mother that every day I was gone, made sure I had something in the mail. I was very quickly introduced to a man by the name of Howard Tuning, who was just an on fire, very charismatic preacher, teacher. And I also met an older man by the name of Ed Cox. And he was a Southern Baptist preacher. And I believe that between Howard and Ed, there was an opportunity being created for me to have the eyes of my understanding enlightened in a way that was going to change my life forever. But during the time that I was down, I think I want to say I read the Bible cover to cover. I read 56 books. I graduated from Kenneth Hagin's Rhema Bible College with a 2-year degree. I ended up teaching a couple classes in the chapel, and I started to actually get to experience what it was like to operate in the gifts and the talents, the atmosphere that God had always intended on me to operate in. And then, before I knew it, it was time for me to go back out into the world.